This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 70, the movie review of Justice League. We will also be discussing the Black Panther trailer. I'm Graham Rickson. Here with me is my friend and co-pilot, Ian Jones.
Wow, I'm so ready for this. We've got brand new microphones to try out.
Yep.
It's so, they're so different. It's just really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love seeing the waves on the program. It's just like, they look clean. I like
nice and clean. Okay, so, well, speaking of something new, so the theater, which I got tickets to for my girlfriend and I to see The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
They are rushing to get everything, to get all their theaters overhauled because they're taking out seats, they're putting in really nice ones, and the whole place is assigned seating.
Oh, alright.
So they're actually losing a bunch of seats by doing this, but it's incredible what they're doing, and the push was to get it done for The Last Jedi, and they're really close. I think they're going to make it, but I mean, like, the whole interior's being redone. But anyway, for Justice League, I went into this theater, I was like, this is different. It wasn't the IMAX one.
Yeah.
But it was called, like, like Black or something like that, like AMC Black.
Yeah.
And so I go in there, and I take my seat, and the first trailer comes up, and my seat just starts vibrating like crazy, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, it just was nuts. Like, every time there was a bass, it was just like, boom, boom. And I'm like, God, there's gotta be a way to turn this off. Tell me I'm not in one of these theaters. Like, at first I thought it was a joke, but then I'm like, oh no, this is that thing we've heard about.
Nice.
Where the seats shake every time there's an explosion. Which is great, because I'm about to sit through 2 hours of explosions.
Right?
And I'll tell you, it just isn't worth it. I hated it. I was looking at every button like, there's got to be a way to turn this off.
Oh, man.
And like, I just couldn't figure it out. Since it was assigned seating, I got there late, I didn't buy, I had my seat picked out, so.
Yep.
Anyway, that was my little adventure for this movie.
You've had quite a few adventures for a little while now. It's just pretty crazy for you, man.
Yeah.
Because but like, one of the reasons why we're getting this late is you, sir.
Yes.
We're having some issues. Some serious issues, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were having some problems, man, with, God. It's just shocking that you would have something so severe, like double kidney failure. It's just like crazy. I almost lost my best friend.
I definitely was reaching out to everyone while I was in the hospital, like, hey, I love you, bro. Just
right?
In case you need to know.
Yep.
That here's what's going on. I had a kidney stone stuck in the worst spot, and it caused both my kidneys to shut down. So I got really lucky.
Crazy. That is so crazy.
And I'm hoping, I've got another procedure on the 6th, so I'm hoping if that's it, I'll be nice and recovered by, the 15th and 16th.
Yeah, so we can see the so we can see Star Wars and do Star Wars.
Anyway, priorities first. I mean,
priorities first.
Help first. And I do have my girlfriend in town that weekend, so that might be the following week, or maybe she'll just sit in on it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, man, so let's go ahead and get into the Black Panther trailer, since we've got through all the other stuff here. So,
all right.
Obviously, I'm excited about Black Panther because it's another Marvel movie. So, it's funny how we're going through the process of dealing with these DC and Marvel movies, and DC hasn't been doing the greatest movies, and Marvel's just been like on top of it. And so I'm really excited about this one because I really enjoyed how they introduced Black Panther in Captain America Civil War, and to have his own movie with, like, you know, I really like Chadwick Boseman and I like Michael B. Jordan, and the director is awesome. You know, it's the same director that did Creed. You know, it's just, I think it's just going to be just a fun, great movie. I'm really excited about it. It looks fantastic.
I think too, and it's so, you know, like aesthetically, it's so different from anything else we've seen.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's really one of the things that I'm looking forward to, and I love that you know, the casting and most of the people involved with the movie. I mean, it fits within the Black Panther comic book. It doesn't feel like, you know, they're making it like a misstep by bringing in the wrong characters or the wrong actors. I feel like the whole cast and crew is, you know, it has the right people attached to it.
Yeah, it looks great, man. And just to reiterate what you're talking about the aesthetics is I really enjoy how everything is looking. And so they really made it look like one of the, like they're in Wakanda, and all their costuming and just like the makeup, everything just looks correct. So I think it's great because this version of Black Panther in the cinematic universe, it's a totally different location in a different area than all the other comics, and it looks completely different. And so even in the comics, that's how it is. So it's great that that's what they're choosing to do. They didn't try to skew it towards anything else. Like, it is its own little thing. And so I think that's just fantastic. I'm just so excited about this one. And I really hope it's awesome. And I think it will be.
Yeah, well, we'll find out soon enough, right?
Oh, yeah.
Starting the summer early.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like February, isn't it?
I thought it was March. Maybe it is February.
It might be March, but I thought it was like February. I remember looking at it and be like, man, that seems really early for this movie. But the thing is I remember, if I recall correctly, that it got pushed. Like, it was supposed to be this year, and it got pushed by like a few months or something like that, I think is what happened.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it's definitely a big, visually heavy movie.
Oh, yeah.
I just was a little surprised that they showed, you know, like Michael B. Jordan's character morphing. I was like, oh man, you know.
Yeah, that probably would have been something to, you know.
That would have been really cool to see in the theaters. So,
yep, rather than in the trailer.
We have this discussion all the time, and I love seeing as much as I possibly can, but that's one of those ones where I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. They're trying to sell tickets.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, like, it's getting to the point, too, where, like, with The Last Jedi, because that's all I've been talking about is Star Wars for the last 2 years since The Force Awakens came out. But, I mean, they're doing all these television spots, and they keep adding something that's just like, oh, man, I wish I would have saw that in the theater for the first time. So,
you know me, man. I try my best to avoid everything.
I know you do. That annoys me, by the way. But lately, I've been like coming around to your way of thinking. Like, stop. No, someone will post the newest TV spot, and there's like one new thing, and it's like freaking awesome. And it's like, oh, I was fine with that awesome trailer they did.
It's so funny, man, because you said it annoys me. Because every time every once in a while you'll ask me, hey, did you see this thing? And you're like, I know. You know that I don't look at that stuff. I know. You're just like, I want to talk about it. Oh, I'm a firm believer of avoiding everything. Like, I just avoid all the things. Even when I see them post on Facebook or something, I'm just like, I'll just let it go.
Right.
You got anything else about this awesome Black Panther trailer? All right.
It's very cool.
It's awesome. let's take a break then, and then we'll get into Justice League. Fueled by his restored faith in humanity, inspired by Superman's selfless act, Bruce Wayne enlists the help of his newfound ally Diana Prince to face an even greater enemy. This movie is directed by Zack Snyder. He is known for 300, Watchmen, and Sucker Punch, and that really gritty style of movie that he's been doing his whole career.
Yeah.
You know, I respect Zack Snyder, but it's getting to the point where I'm starting to get a little hint of Tim Burton. You know what I mean by that? Where it's like starting to turn into like a one-trick pony, where it's like that's so much his thing that
it's like the same thing over and over again.
Yes, like the same look and feel and tone. That. And so, everybody knows I'm not a fan of Tim Burton and his style. And Zack Snyder always thought had a really cool style, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, man, can he like tone it down just a little bit? But but that's just how I am. This movie starring Ben Affleck as Batman or Bruce Wayne. He was in Armageddon, The Town, and Argo. And also, terrible Daredevil movie.
But, right. You know, yeah. I had to explain to my mom that he was Batman.
What?
And, yeah, Ben Affleck just came up and she was, I don't know, mentioning a scandal or whatever. And, you know, I've always thought that Ben Affleck was an asshole. Going back to a video, and let me preface this by saying, when we were in school, I had a roommate named Josh Davidson. When we were in school together. I don't know if you ever met Josh.
I don't think I ever met Josh.
But he was in the film program, and he was really proud of this one video he had when he was working at a movie theater. And Ben Affleck showed up to watch some movie that was playing. Yeah. I don't even know if it was one of his or not. But Ben was such a dick to everyone around him. And it wasn't like he was getting swarmed, and I get it. He's just there to watch a movie.
Yes.
But I mean, he totally looked like, you know, the Ben Affleck from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I mean, he
the
just
extreme
looked
version.
He looked exactly like that. He was almost wearing the same clothes. And he was just so uninterested in, like, the two people who recognized him.
Nice.
And I was just, oh man, this guy's an ass. Now he's Batman.
Well, the thing about it is Ben Affleck has always had that aura about him, where you just think that he's just a complete jerk if you ever met the guy, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Jeez.
Oh.
Henry Cavill is Superman Clark Kent. He was in The Count of Monte Cristo, Immortals, and The Man from U.N.C.L.E, the really fun Man from U.N.C.L e movie that nobody watched. It did not deserve to, like, not get as much money as it just bombed at the box office, but it was actually a good movie. We did a review on that one, so if anybody wants to hear our review on that one, we have that one also. Amy Adams is Lois Lane. She was in The Fighter, American Hustle, and the Arrival movie. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Diana Prince, she was in Fast and Furious and Keeping Up with the Joneses. She hasn't been in a lot. She's kind of new. Ezra Miller as the Flash / Barry Allen. He was in Trainwreck and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Jason Momoa as Aquaman / Arthur Curry, which I will continue to say that it's really weird calling him Arthur Curry. It seems really weird, especially considering the actual character of Arthur Curry is like this almost like German style, like he's blonde hair, blue eyes. It's just like so weird.
Which is no Germans, by the way.
Right?
That fake Nordic.
Yeah, that fake Nordic thing. It's just like
ancestry that they don't have. Well, you know, and it's funny because they just brush over and I'll get into this, but they just brush over the fact that he was left on someone's doorstep. And that's why his name is Arthur Curry.
Yes. He was in Game of Thrones and Conan the Barbarian. Ray Fisher as Cyborg / Victor Stone. This guy hasn't done anything. This is like his first movie role. He's a stage actor, so he's been doing acting for a long time, but he's just only been on stage. So that's all this guy's done. The last one here I'll put in is Jeremy Irons as Alfred. He was in The Lion King, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Eragon. Got anything else for these characters? You have any more comments for these characters?
I don't. I'm gonna let that Eragon thing go because I freaking hated that movie so much. All right, here we go. All it is, this is all Eragon is. Okay, is a blatant ripoff of A New Hope. That's it. Yes. That's all it is. If you look at it, that's what the movie is, and it's almost like shot for shot. The only difference is instead of the Force, there's a dragon. So I was just not a fan of it at all, and I'm glad I didn't have to go and see another one.
I just remember that movie has what's his name? Was it John Malkovich is in that movie? Like, isn't he like the king or something? I can't remember, but whoever played the king, I remember, and I'm pretty sure it was John Malkovich, but he was just kind of like, he was just like phoning it in, like the whole time. He just like didn't. There was no care.
I can never tell. Okay, I don't remember him in that movie. That's not what I remember. But as far as John Malkovich phoning it in, I can never tell if he is or not. It's kind of like Nicolas Cage.
Oh wow!
I just can't tell.
That's harsh.
You know, he gives you something that you think is amazing, and then all of a sudden, you know, not so much.
Not so. Oh, that's terrible. All right, let's just take a quick break.
John Malkovich, clothes for crazy people. His clothing line for eccentric crazies.
God damn it.
All right.
Let's take a break, and we'll get into Justice League, the Quirks and Likes section. All right, Jones, we're back here, and let's get into this Quirks and Likes. So, I'm going to start with probably the biggest problem I have with this movie is it has some basic filmmaking and storytelling problems.
Oh, really? Okay.
The thing is the movie is a mess. It has a hard time, and the problem is I can tell that the studio wanted them to cut this movie down to under 2 hours. And I know that they fought it because the movie is 1 hour and 59 minutes long. And so that number in general just freaks me out because it's like they clearly they were aiming for that. And I think the problem is you're introducing 3 new characters in one movie. So what ends up happening is you kind of lose the backstory for a huge portion of these characters. So you get a little bit of the Flash, and he probably gets the most backstory with his mother and his father. And then you get Aquaman, who has one scene. He has the one scene, right. and that's it. And so you get the idea that he's basically bucking his responsibilities and that he was an abandoned boy, essentially. And that's it. You don't get anything else, and that's it. So I think that in that aspect, he's probably the one that got the worst deal on this when it comes to backstory. I almost feel like they chose to do that for him. They're like, well, we're going to cut some of this Aquaman stuff out since we have an Aquaman movie coming out anyway, which will probably just fill everybody in, you know? It's
right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. What were you going to say?
Well, I think you're right on the money. Aquaman gets the short change.
Oh yeah.
You know, as far as, because there's literally one scene where he's talking to Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And all this exposition comes out and it's really fast. It's like rapid fire. I mean, He's walking away from Batman. and there's all this exposition coming out. But then there's one brief little scene where he's in Atlantis where you find out that he's never gone back before.
Yes.
So how would he know where it is? Yeah. And then and then he knows about the trident. But I mean, like, that all gets whatever. Whatever the explanation is. He's never been there before, yet he shows up, and he knows to go there because they're under attack.
Yes.
But I felt like the scene before with Bruce Wayne didn't really hammer that home.
No.
Like, he didn't show up with any evidence. Like, this is what's going to happen, and, so I felt like they did really well explaining one of the new characters, and then the other one sort of, and that was one of the things I was really going to drive home is that, as far as being character-based, I feel like this let down a lot of characters. Even Wonder Woman and Batman, I felt like didn't have like a clear path or an area of growth.
Yeah, and they also didn't have a clear connection. Also, it's almost like it obviously. In the other movies, there's a connection between Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince because she's one of the first people he figures out who she actually is when you watch Batman vs. Superman. And they've already fought together. So there's already that connection there. And so you don't quite get that as much in this movie as I would like to have seen. So there's a lot of little issues like that, and the other person that got shortchanged was Cyborg, but even Cyborg's story is not that extensive anyway. But you also didn't really get a whole lot with him either. And the other just issue I had with just how the storytelling problems are is the villain was really underdeveloped also. So he kind of just shows up, and you don't really know exactly what his motivation is other than to get these three things together and form Mother, with unity. And that's all you get. And you don't really know what else, like, why is he trying to turn, like, this world into his own or whatever. Like, you don't get that at all in this movie. And so a lot of issues I feel like this movie is that it needed to be longer. And I feel like the studio is the one that actually had them cut it down because this movie probably could have been better if it was 25 minutes longer, Just give us a little extra story in there. The movie was 2 hours long. If it was 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, maybe we would have got a little more flushed out pattern, and it wouldn't have been so rapid fire. Because even just how the very beginning of the movie starts is super rapid fire. You're like with the Atlanteans, and you're with the, you go to Batman, and then you go to all these other different sections, and you go with the Flash, and they're just introduced throughout rapidly. The first like half an hour of the movie is just like rapid fire, and then the movie slows down and kind of plays itself out, and then it has rapid fire at the end. So it just has a huge flow problem with this movie, and I think that it being longer would have helped out a lot.
Mm. Yeah. Especially if it's going to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, there's some more comedy where they're getting to know each other.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely agree with you. And usually we're talking about cutting movies down, but this is just one of those ones where there's too many characters, and so you got to figure. And they didn't all get their own movie, so I think you got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a lot tougher to do when you're basically introducing three characters into one movie. So they kind of, messed themselves over just by doing it the way they decided to do it, because you don't get as much of an even flow with the characters. Unlike when you get just a couple characters that are introduced, because a prime example is like Avengers: Age of Ultron introduces like 3 characters. So, I mean, it just seems like they just did it better. And that's just giving an example. That's not a DC Marvel thing, but I'm just saying as an example of introducing multiple characters into one movie. I think it's more smooth in that one. But it's also easier in that one too because two of the characters were brothers and sisters, so they kind of could play their story at the same time. But even just introducing Black Panther and Captain America Civil War, you kind of got a little bit of his background throughout that movie and his motivation.
It's clear. It's a clear one.
It's a clear motivation. So it's just one of those things, and you get a lot about how he is as a character without it being just mixed up. And so I thought this one was bad. And the only other scene that you can sort of get a little bit more with Aquaman is when Wonder Woman has the lasso on him and he doesn't know. And so he starts saying how he's, always wanted to be, which is just a funny scene.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my likes for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, they could have done more of this.
Yes, that would have been great. It's just hearing him get a little more of his backstory because he's such a, very stoic character. And to see him just, kind of just open up and then, freaking Bruce Wayne's just
points to his ankle.
Yeah, it's just that is such a good scene, and I just really enjoyed that. The only other thing I have wrong with this movie, and we'll get into yours, is I thought I enjoyed The Flash, but this is a nerd problem for me, and that's this version of the Flash. There's multiple versions of The Flash, but this version of The Flash is Barry Allen, and Barry Allen has always been a more serious character than Wally West. And so getting this really jokey Barry Allen that you would expect to get from Wally West, I thought was really weird. The reason why I don't care that much about it is because I've always preferred the Wally West Flash versus the Barry Allen one anyway. So getting more of Wally West into Barry Allen I preferred. It's just a nerd thing for me. They really just purposely made him like a more comical character, which is what Wally West was.
I think it's a little too much. However, the thing that I'll say is that I thought it was good that they had a character like this because I felt like the movie needed it.
It did.
And I mean, he's still extremely helpful.
Yes.
For the team. So I mean, if that's the youngest guy and he's not battle hardened like the others, then I really felt like it made sense. So the one thing about doing the character the way that they did him is I felt like, okay, I know this character. If they go on to do like a Flashpoint type movie, which is what I think the rumors are,
yeah,
then I think it makes sense. I feel like we understand him, and then he has a chance to grow.
Yes.
It gives him a shot at growing on his own, and then maybe we get a little bit more of a serious Flash.
Yep, I can see that
down the road if there is a sequel to this.
Yep. All right, so what's your quirks then?
My quirks? The biggest problem for me, and I really had issues with how some of the scenes were edited and, how uneven the character development was. But
yes,
the thing that really bothered me, and this was such a huge problem that it was almost eclipsing everything else, and that is something that we have to call Mustache Gate.
Oh, here we go.
Single shot of Henry Cavill had to digitally take out whatever. Henry Cavill. They had to take out his mustache, and it looked ridiculous. Every shot where he's talking. The very first scene in the movie is this grainy cell phone, and it's ridiculous. His upper lip looks like one of those old Conan sketches that he used to do on NBC, where they would replace the mouth with someone's face. I mean, it doesn't match up, and it's like that throughout the movie, with one exception, and that's I believe it's the final scene where he's racing the Flash, and it's actually him. He actually has like a 5 o'clock shadow. And everything seems to be fine. The rest of it is ridiculous. He's like saying these things like, you won't let me live. You won't let me die. And like his lip is just not even. It's so bad. Oh, they should have thrown money. They should have thrown money at Paramount to get him to shave that mustache. I mean, it's every scene where he has to talk.
Alright.
It's so bad. I mean, you're just like, no, this is ridiculous. This is a high dollar movie, and it's got the biggest joke in it is the removal of his mustache.
You're not wrong. It was a very high budget movie. It's one of the most expensive movies ever filmed. So I get it. It's just
why not just give Superman a mustache? I mean, to hell with it. He's evil anyway, right? I mean, oh, kind of. It's so weird.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, you mentioned Aquaman. Yeah, that was my second thing. I never really fully understood what the deal was with the 3 boxes.
Yeah.
They try explaining it. It's so derivative. It just seems like it's the most confusing MacGuffin ever. I'm trying to think of like one recently that's even close. And I mean it's so muddled. It's weird. It's like a ripoff between the Tesseract and the cube in Transformers. I mean, they even look the same, and it's just like, what the hell's going on? As I throw something at my camera at Graham, because I'm just like, what the hell do these boxes have to do with anything?
They don't.
The only thing I liked about them is that, okay, well, this is a way of waking up Superman, which is a little odd because we kind of were led to believe that was already going to happen.
Exactly.
From the
at
way
the end of the movie.
Superman versus Batman ended.
Yes. Yep, because the dirt comes floating up.
Right.
And so you're like, oh, well, he's clearly just going to come back.
He's going to come back at some point.
Yeah. But they decide to jump him, so they jump Superman to get him.
They jump start him, and then we get Mustache Gate. So, I don't think I could even explain what they are right now. I mean, what the hell do those things do? So,
Nothing
yeah,
else.
I mean, that could have been. The other thing was, and I say this with a grain of salt, kind of felt like we had too many shirtless scenes just overall. Like
what?
Where Superman's just without a shirt for whatever reason.
Oh, man.
Like, why wasn't he in a shirt? Why was it when they brought him back, it blew off his top and not his bottoms? Someone explain that to me.
It doesn't
Aquaman
make any sense
just
at
like
all.
taking his shirt off and, so
he clearly wasn't, buried without a shirt.
Right, yes, he wasn't buried without a shirt on. He was in a suit, damn it. Oh, man. I think the only thing that balances it out, if I'm being fair, I mean, it seemed to me like Diana's skirt was really short, and there were plenty of awkward camera angles.
Yes, there was.
So, thinking about it, I'm like, okay, maybe it balances out. But
it definitely balances
Superman
out.
Wearing a shirt.
Because it seems like it's shorter, and there's like a lot of awkward shots of her from like behind and stuff.
Angles.
Yeah. Yes, there were some awkward angles where you're just like, what? Why is it filmed that way?
Climbing, and it's like, oh, okay. Guys made this movie clearly.
Yep. There's definitely
the other thing
a lot out of there.
Is, and this is another one of those story things, but this will be my last quirk, because I feel like we could pick a movie like this apart to death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, there's something interesting here where they, at the start of the movie, they make it seem like the world has lost hope without Superman.
Yes.
And I feel like that should have been more of a focal like something that they really focused on, and I felt like that got lost.
It did.
Because it almost sounds to me, and this would have been so cool and the connection's never made, but that almost sounds like Darkseid's influence. Yes. That is really close to his power.
Yes,
and so it makes sense to me that if your bad guy is going to be Steppenwolf, and I mean they don't set him up well, you already got into that, but that's Darkseid's uncle, and so the bad guy of the DCU, the main baddie, has to be Darkseid.
Yes, it has.
It's got to be. Yep. And so that loss of hope and everything, it seems to me that it needed to be a bigger selling point for getting Superman back into it. That there was almost a scene that needed to take place where we saw that it's not just one bank robbery, and it isn't that Lois isn't writing again. I mean, those are really normal. Those are things that would happen, right?
Yes. Obviously, and the thing is there's I can see what you're saying, because there isn't a scene that shows how the world as a whole has lost hope.
Right. Other than sort of that opening scene. Yeah,
that was it. It's just the opening cell phone scene, and you don't get the overlying thing. And well, this would actually lead into one of my likes about this movie, but you're not wrong with how it's never really conveyed via the entire world has lost hope. So you don't get the scenes of people whispering about things. And I'm not sure how they would have done that, and it might be in there because I know they cut this movie down. Like I just know for a fact that they did that. But it's just not conveyed as well as you would like it to be, because clearly there's the beginning scene, there's a scene with her not writing anymore, there's the scenes where even Bruce Wayne himself says the world needs Superman, and he's a beacon. Like, they do things like that throughout the whole movie, but you don't really get that feeling through the whole movie.
Right.
So it's really weird how they did that, but I think that that's what they were trying to drive home, and it just doesn't work.
All right, so you said that led into one of your likes. So let's go ahead and...
Okay, that's fine. So the thing is the thing that I enjoyed, one of the things I said even before we did this, when we were discussing Justice League, I believe it was at the end of the last podcast, I was basically referring to how the difference between DC and Marvel. DC and Marvel, for their entire inception, or the reason why they're still both around, is they're still both very different characters. Marvel always has characters that you can relate to on a personal level. They're flawed individuals that you can understand where they're coming from. That's why you get characters like Spider-Man, and you get characters like Iron Man and Tony Stark, who you don't think you can relate to him, but he's so flawed. And I mean, in the comics, he's an alcoholic. And so so there's all these flaws in these characters, because they're just more human. But the difference is DC characters have always been heroes. They're people you're supposed to look up to. It's the reason why they have less flaws. And so one of the problems I've had with all the movies that DC has done in the cinematic universe that they have built here is that they've never conveyed that aspect of DC to me at all, which I think is really weird, because that's how I see DC. I see them as, you're supposed to look at Superman, and he's supposed to be the hopeful Boy Scout, the guy that you're supposed to look up to, right. Yet he's really moody in Man of Steel and in Batman vs. Superman. So it's just kind of weird how they convey that character that way when he's supposed to be a beacon. And it works the same way with Green Lantern. When you have the Green Lantern movie, that's just awful. They don't convey at all his ability to, his power, his ring is the ring of will. So being able to control your own will, that's something that's very important in humanity. And it's so you're supposed to look up to somebody who has the ability to do that. And all the characters are like that. But they haven't conveyed that at all in any of these movies. And I think this one gets it the closest. And that was the reason why I thought that one of the things that I liked about this one is they captured more of DC's essence, which to me is having the scene with Bruce Wayne basically telling Wonder Woman that she needs to step up and be a beacon.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne's a jerk through this whole movie.
He is.
But he's not saying things that are incorrect. He's just like, he sounds like a jerk because he's like, you need to get over Steve Trevor, you need to get over him, and you need to be a beacon. Like your people are supposed to look up to you.
Exactly.
And so, and I love that scene, even though he's just such a jerk. But he's saying things that like needs to happen because these are what these characters are supposed to be. Batman can't be that, and Batman's never been that. But the other characters have been, and so. I just love that scene so much, and I love that they did that, and they were talking about how Superman was, that the world needs him, and he's a beacon of hope, and all this other stuff. Like, it makes so much sense to have that aspect to this movie. And to me, I'm like, if they do more of that, then DC's doing it more correctly. And so, just tacking on to that, I really enjoyed just how all the characters were in this movie. A lot of them, like, I liked how the Flash was. He was like a fun character, and I get that he was more Wally West than Barry Allen, but I just liked him as a character, and it was more lighthearted as it should be, because DC it's not supposed to be super moody the whole time. So I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed what they did with Aquaman. Like, I get that he's a totally different character than what we're used to, but it's Aquaman, nobody cares, and this version's kind of cool. So, right.
It's Aquaman, no one cares, and this version's kind of cool.
Right. So I enjoyed seeing that, or having that character in there too, and I thought you got more of the correct Batman in this movie also, especially when you have Bruce Wayne using different gadgets and him actually still doing detective work throughout this whole movie, trying to find people and figure stuff out. He was still doing that in this movie, which is closer to Batman than we've been. So it's like, it's so weird that these movies haven't been that great, but you get this Ben Affleck version of Batman is probably the closest to what I would expect Batman to be. And so and Wonder Woman's awesome no matter what. Like, she's just great in this movie also. And she has been through all her inception in the DC universe. She's definitely the character they've pretty much had on point this whole time. And so I enjoyed it. And even Cyborg I thought was an interesting character. They made him just kind of him doing the conflict with basically turning fully into a robot and how helpful he was in the end, even though it seemed like he got a hang of everything very quickly, which was really, really awkward in the movie. But I think that's another thing that has to do with it just not being long enough.
Well, it's funny because I had that down. I had Cyborg down as one of my likes because I felt like the word was that they went in and completely rehashed his character. And it's a Zack Snyder movie, but this was one of the things that Joss Whedon, I know, came in and worked on. And so I felt like I got a really good sense of who his character was. I thought that the dialogue and a lot of the things that he said were even poetic.
Yes.
And so how he gets in the fight, I thought was really cool, and I thought it showed his value.
Yes.
To the team. So, for being a brand new guy, I mean, they could have spent the entire movie trying to stop Cyborg, if they turned it a little differently and he was maybe going off the rails. I mean, there were a lot of different things they could have done with this movie to maybe introduce the characters in the way that the Avengers and Age of Ultron did, where, they actually turned some of the good guys into bad guys, but that does a lot of times help you see where people are coming from, or, that they're misguided and they do need to join, up with Batman and Wonder Woman, like, people who are established. So I really liked what they did with Cyborg in this movie.
Yep. I fully agree too, man. I thought overall with this movie, it's so weird because the movie has a lot of issues, but I feel like as far as the characters themselves, I thought they were on point. And I thought that that's really good. And the plus side to that is it gets me to the point where I would like to see these characters with better writing and better flow. You know what I mean? So, like, I like where their characters are at. I just want a better movie out of it. The last thing I want to say, and this is something that I thought was just an amazing scene, and that's the flashback scene with Steppenwolf. That sequence was not only just really well done and just like a gorgeous, really awesome scene, but it also has world building at the same time for the whole universe, because you're introduced more to the Olympian gods, to the Atlanteans, to the Green Lanterns, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Right. I really enjoyed seeing the Green Lanterns in there, specifically when one of them is killed. He falls down, his hand drops, the ring comes off his hand, and then zips away to somebody else. So it'll lay dormant until it finds somebody else that can take over, who's worthy enough to be a Green Lantern. And so I thought that was so cool that they added that little piece. People don't realize how important that is. Yes. It's like thoroughly important through the basically just the DC universe in general, including the Lanterns. So God, I love that scene so much. It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie because of that reason. And that was all my likes.
I really like this version of Alfred. There's something fun about the connection that he has with Bruce. Yes. Because it's almost like an uncle and nephew, or yep. It's almost like they're older brothers or something at this point. Yep. And the fact that Alfred is not, it's the fact that he's being clever and not subtle at the same time about trying to get Bruce and Diana together. I just thought was a lot of fun. Yeah. Because he's not being subtle at all, but he's very clever in the way that, like, the dialogue is delivered when he chooses to say it. Yep. So
it's like the scene where Diana Prince has figured out where Cyborg is, and so he specifically says, "Well, it looks like you have a date," and then his little comment after that is like, "Well, it's about time somebody around here does." Like that little comment. That was so funny because they're just like in that lair, like,
and he's giving him crap about it. But I mean, it's so great because you see that Batman's going to have to make a change to how he does things. Yes, and I mean it's almost going to get to the point. And I think this would be really cool if we saw like a Batman Beyond type version.
That would be interesting.
Of the character. I think that would be really cool. And, we see why that would need to happen. I mean, he's going to have to go to more of a robotic suit pretty soon. And
so because it's the older version of Batman.
Yeah, I like where it's going. So I like the little interaction between Bruce Wayne and Diana. I think that's good. I think I would have liked to have seen even more of it. And, who knows, maybe we will get to see it. The other thing is there are plenty of scenes here, I think, for fans of the comic books. Yeah. That are just a lot of fun. But one of the ones which had me laughing hysterically, and it's so good, but when they're all trying to hold Superman back, and there's just this extended scene of the Flash running in to help, and Superman just very slowly turns to look at him. And the Flash is just like, what? Yep. Like I love the staring match to get into, and it's so long. It's good. It's good. Yeah. It's like, God, this makes the whole movie.
Yeah, it's really good.
This makes up for like everything.
Oh yeah, it's a really cool scene.
It's just like, God, that's so much fun. I just love that while Superman's engaging all of them, he can turn and look at the Flash. and scare the Flash off. Like, I mean, wow, that's gotta be like sticking your hand in a bucket full of scorpions. So I was just so like, funny. Oh, yes. It could have gone on longer. Yeah. And I just would have been geeking out in my seat.
It's so funny you say that because one of the other things that's so cool is like, you get that connection and then you get that mid-credit scene where they decide to do a race, which in the comic books they always do. So like that's a part of the Justice League comic books because Superman's just a little bit faster. Just a little bit. But the Flash is fast as shit. So, so it's so funny that they have that extra credit scene in there because it shows that connection also. So it's just so cool. I thought that's great, man. And I like that you brought that up.
I do like the little callback to Brunch.
Right.
That just seems like that whole line, that whole dialogue seems like something out of the Buffyverse.
Yeah, right.
So I really enjoyed that. So
yep, and also you have the connection. Like, there's that little bit of growth between the Flash and Cyborg, because even after everything, because he tries to give him a fist bump, and then at the end of the movie he gets it. It's like
right, finally earns it.
Yeah, finally earns it. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of little fun things like that throughout this whole movie. That is kind of the thing for the comic book fans and stuff. So it's pretty cool. All right, you got anything else?
No, that's it out of me.
All right, so let's go ahead and rate it. I want to say, just reiterate everything I said about how much I like the movie. I think the movie has a lot of little storytelling problems that really hurt it. But I thought that the characters were all where they should be, and I want to see these characters in another movie that has just better flow and better written. And so I'm going to say, if you're a DC fan, I'm going to say see it. Otherwise, just rent it.
Yeah, I'm going to say rent it too.
Okay. It's a fun movie, but it has a lot of little flaws that really hurts the flow of the movie. And so, unless you're like, there's a lot of fan stuff in this. So if you're a DC, I don't see why you wouldn't want to see this movie if you are a fan of DC. But there's so many other little issues that everyone else just aren't going to get. So I think you should rent it, get an idea of the characters, and then hopefully we'll get a better movie later.
All right.
You want to sign out then?
Sign out.
All right. If everybody wants to contact us, we have our home on the web at halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
Rate us on iTunes and Google Play.
We're on Stitcher, Libsyn, and TuneIn.
Email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Send us some questions. We love answering questions, so
tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. I am not sure what movie we're going to do, because you, sir, have stuff to get done.
Yes. I know. So, the next one's going to be The Last Jedi.
Do you think we're going to go that long? The Last Jedi? Well, I was hoping to get, because Coco came out this past weekend.
Oh, okay.
So,
I could see that.
I was hoping we'd get Coco done, sure. And I definitely want to do The Shape of Water also, but we'll have to see how that works out.
All right.
And those two are before Last Jedi. So we'll just see how it works out, and we'll just kind of play it up and figure it out.
All right.
But, all right. Anything else, Jones?
Wonderful. Shape of Water might be a makeup, because I'm definitely going to go and see that, but I might...
That's a tough one for you, because I think it's the same... I think that's the same weekend as your... Yep. So...
Okay.
That's fine. We'll do... How about Shape of Water? We'll make a makeup cast, and we'll see if we can't get Coco done. We'll do that. How about that?
I like it.
All right, cool. This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonses.
See you next flick.